Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Mr. BoomStick XL. And folks, we have an incredible show for you. Not only are we opening up with the lead topic on whether or not Microsoft needs to adopt a new way to show us and get us excited for games via a Nintendo Direct style, but we're going to be talking about Cyberpunk 2077. That's right, folks. We just got a 31-minute display for the Xbox Series X and S, and we have a bunch of patch notes that we're going to break down. That the update is live. Whoa, pardon me for being rude. That was my Metal Gear Solid. So that's right. They're calling me in. And of course, man, I can't believe my phone was that loud. Coño. Anyway, let's get into the introductions. We are going to be without Boxenberger. He did have some family and work stuff to take care of. He will be back with us next week. We have VJ joining the conversation on a full-time basis. He is here, but we're going to bring him in on the back end because he is taking care of some family stuff. Let's get into who you see on your screen, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to start first with the Mav, who almost didn't make it, but thankfully, real life decided to take a pause, and he's here for our entertainment. Mav, what's going on, brother? How the heck are you?
Pretty good, man. Dealing with some nonsense online right now. Other than that, dude, having a good day. Some awesome stuff happening in the world of Cyberpunk has me a little excited, and man, it's a good week for gaming. We found out on Tidbits yesterday. We were looking through all the games coming out this week. I mean, this is a good week. It's a good week. So I'm excited to get into all this, and shout out to our newest panel member, BJ. Excited to be on the show with him in the future, and my brothers Pong and Enjoying the Dark. So it's gonna be a fun show. Looking forward to it.
Yep. Yeah, and it's great to have you a part of it, brother. Thank you so much for being here as always. Next up, Mr. Joanna Dark. We had a podcast before the podcast. And if you were wondering what we were talking about, well, we are kind of up in arms, like many people, regarding the shenanigans, if you will, known as Horizon Forbidden West, PS5 versus PS4. And Sony is doing what Sony does best and trying to snatch that $10 out of you no matter what. As a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, on Friday mornings, Breakfast with Boom, we are going to have a return appearance of Hogue Law, who dropped an absolutely incredible video calling out SIE and letting people know that, hey, do not buy the PlayStation 5 version because you can and will get that for free, even though Sony is doing their damnedest to make sure that you spent $70 instead of 60. But Joanna Dark, how the heck are you?
I'm good. The forbidden price, Boom. We can say that.
The forbidden price. That is oh man, you should definitely every time we say it, I think you should get a nickel. Absolutely, for
I know,
sure.
Right? No, I'm great. Like everyone else. Great that Mav was able to make the show. VJ as well. Welcome. Pong, as always, you're everywhere. You're like the Game Pass of podcasting. I am excited. I've been playing Dying Light and I'm loving it. More of the game. And another game that has me really intrigued and I can't wait is Triangle Strategy. And I'm gonna say this,
dude,
if you love Final Fantasy Tactics,
yes,
this is a sort of spiritual successor to that game.
Yep.
I still want to find out if there's going to be like an intriguing kind of job system, but overall, love it. I've been enjoying that. I just finished. Now I'm just waiting for my transfer to my save to continue when it comes out on I think it's March 4th. And besides that, I'm excited for Cyberpunk, my second playthrough. When I look at some of the updates they did, it looks like a new game, but I'm happy that also people on console are going to get finally the experience that many PC players have been able to kind of get by having more beefier machines and, of course, being more stable for the PC audience. So just ready to talk about some of the subjects today and happy to be here.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you here. Big shout out to Caitlin in the chat. She's here, obviously. So thank you so much, Caitlin. Always a pleasure. Of course, we got to shout out the one and only Lethal Papa, walking the streets, talking the talk, and banning people as necessary. Of course, again, he walks silently, folks, and carries a very large ban stick. But let's continue. Pong Soul, the man, the myth, the legend, the one that is everywhere and also nowhere. I don't know how he does it, but he's here for your entertainment. Pong Soul, what's up, brother? How the heck are you?
Oh, dude, great. Boom. Back at it on a Tuesday. We got VJ joining the crew. Are you serious right now? The man who influenced me while I was coming up in podcasting over the past year and a half now. Ah, man, this is a great day. Awesome to see Mav here, of course, my brother from another, and Mr. Joanna Dark. But look, Cyberpunk, my game of last generation. Yes, I cheated and played it on current gen, but I love this game. I'm over 200 hours in. Still have not completed my first playthrough. This is an amazing day. Finally, we get this next gen patch. Hopefully, more people jump into it now and get to see for themselves if they like it or if they don't. I still think it's like I said, my game of last gen. I absolutely love this game. So this is a fantastic day, Boom. Plus, we got a lot of other stuff to talk about as well.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Let's get down to it, brother.
We absolutely do. Let's welcome in the newest panel member. Obviously, you knew him from the Thursdays Xbox Factor podcast that has been consolidated into one show. Hey, you like them apples? VJ, welcome back, brother. How the heck are you?
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be back, Boom. And again, thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. And thank you for everyone for such a warm welcome. And I guess I'm looking forward to everyone's thoughts on today's topics. I actually only popped along to sort of double the European contingency, but it seems like Archimedes has bailed out on me.
Yeah, he'll be back next week. He's just handling some business, but it's great to have you here. Obviously, you spent some time on Breakfast with Boom, which is a little tough for you because obviously in the West Coast where you are, it's 7 a.m. there and it's 10 a.m. here. Now, at least it's 9 a.m. as opposed to 7, and you maybe have had a chance to have your spot of tea or two. So you're more awake and ready to go. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for being here. We have already 150 people here, which is awesome. And we're only 7 minutes. In fact, heck, we're only into intros. And to give people updates, and I've been getting a couple of DMs, I am literally doing double duty today. I have just finished recording all of my footage for Upspec Gaming's X-Screen review. That's right, folks. By week's end, I don't want to give a specific date because tonight I'm going to be burning the midnight oil and putting the video together. It's probably going to run anywhere between 10 and 13 minutes. I have a lot of footage. I recorded footage of Forza Horizon 5, Halo Infinite, and Gears 5. And of course, I'm going to be breaking down how easy it is to put together, start up, show you up close and personal screen gameplay. That's going to be coming later this week. I'm hoping to have the video up and ready to rock and roll Thursday. But listen, we have a lot to get into, and I want to talk about Cyberpunk. See, for me, I've never played it. I simply decided to take a pause on a game that I felt was going to be better, more enjoyed, I should say, with the 1.5 patch that launched today. My brother, Neo Mental, has beaten it more times than I can count on one hand, and he's gotten every ending. I believe he's gotten all the achievements. It was one of his favorite games of last gen for sure. But let's break down, folks, exactly what Cyberpunk 2077 version 1.5, the patch notes, have to bring to the table. And these are, of course, all next generation exclusives. They've added ray tracing to local light shadows. They implemented native achievement support on next gen consoles. They've added a performance mode that ensures smooth gameplay at 60 FPS with dynamic 4K scaling. They added a ray tracing mode, and that provides photorealistic shadows and reflections, as well as rendering the gameplay at 30 FPS with dynamic 4K scaling. The Xbox Series S version, little man, has no graphics mode selection and is by default presented in 30 FPS at 1440p with dynamic resolution scaling. They also added balanced HDR to achieve parity across all platforms, various visual quality improvements, added activity cards for the PlayStation 5, but that really doesn't, is not important to us. Added Spanish voiceover support for the Americas, which is pretty awesome. They also implemented let's see what else. The addition, they added some additional content. They added additional apartments that are now available. Listen, I could spend 20 minutes reading this. We're not going to get into it any further. I'm going to have all of the patch notes in the show notes, so when it goes on VOD, you can go and you can check it out for yourself. Pong, I want to go to you first.
Yeah.
You're one of our biggest fans of this company, this developer, more specifically this game. What does someone that has 200 hours, that hasn't all finished the game because you were waiting, what does this patch do for you?
Yeah, I actually wasn't even waiting. This is just how I'm playing Cyberpunk because I'm enjoying myself so much. I mean, there's got to be at least 50 hours of photo time and just driving around the city, listening to music, taking in the sights. This patch means a lot. Like I said, hopefully now, because there's a lot of people just like you, Boom, who held off playing this game until this patch was going to show up. I've already seen people on Twitter saying, time to break it open, right?
Yep.
Time to finally dive into this. Crazy that it's coming this week, this month, with so many other games that are dropping as well. But it's going to be great for people to finally hop into it and figure out if they enjoy it as much as me, or if it's somewhere less than that, or whatever the case may be. Again, CD Projekt Red, make no mistake about it, these are one of the best Western RPG developers out there, okay? The Witcher 3 did not start in the best shape either, and they got that game to actually become one of the best RPGs, according to a lot of people, that has ever been created, right? So they are known for doing this. Whether that's right or wrong, we can have that discussion all day and twice on Sunday if you want to, about whether or not it's acceptable for games to come out in states that are less than what they should be. That is something that we've seen time and time again, and just more of as we've gone forward. But the fact remains that at its core, Cyberpunk 2077, again, I cheated. I played on current gen. I played on Series X. I did not play on a PS4 or an Xbox One, right? Which where a lot of the issues were. Again, also for me personally, I don't have a problem with bugs as long as they don't cost me my time, like a save bug, and as long as they're not game breaking. I don't have an issue with bugs. I've played all these decades through so many different games with all sorts of different things that are wrong, and it hasn't affected my experience. Now, I understand other people are more sensitive to them, and that can decrease, how you feel about a game. I get that. For me, it's not that big a deal. Again, as long as you're not costing me my time, as long as you're not breaking my game, I'm cool with a lot of bugs. So Cyberpunk to me was a great experience. I didn't experience a lot of the things that people were experiencing elsewhere. Thankfully, Mav always claims that I have a Magic Series X console because a lot of the bugs that people show off in different games, I just don't have. So
it's magic.
Maybe it is. Maybe I got the Magic Xbox Series X. I don't know. But anyways, this game is something that is phenomenal if you are into RPGs. If you love the Witcher side quests, I'm not going to say that. And again, for me, it's hard because I have different opinions than a lot of people do when they go out and experience these things. But the side quests in this game are absolutely phenomenal. Sure, are there some that are not so great? Of course. Whenever you create a game this big, there's going to be side quests that aren't that great. But man,
so basically, you're saying like maybe going to find someone's leg.
Right. But some of the side quests have characters.
Yeah. Did you like the side quest where it felt like Dead Space with the AI and the car? Not to give spoilers, that's one of the good ones right there.
That's one of the good ones. There's a bunch of, like I said, I haven't even finished the game, so I'm still. I just found one the other night that I had to complete. Some of these side characters that you come across in these side missions are almost better written than some of the main ones, and that's saying a lot because the main ones are freaking amazing. but there's so much to experience in this world. Cyberpunk is gigantic. In the between the soundtrack, between just the atmosphere that they've created, it truly is special for me. Again, not everybody's going to agree on that, but for me, it is. It really is something that's, again, you can nitpick all day long. Do they reuse NPCs as you're walking down the street? If you walk enough, are you going to see doubles and triples of the same NPC? Of course you are. Yes, you are. But that still, if you're not nitpicking, if you're not looking for those things, the atmosphere of walking through the city, it's one of the most alive feeling cities in the world.
The truth is,
Yeah.
Pong, what game doesn't do that?
Right, right, exactly. And I know they overpromised in a lot of areas. I get that. CD Projekt Red was out there to crush it with this, and they really went out of their way to go ahead, and they went up and beyond. And what that means is when a developer does that, sometimes they shoot for the moon and they just don't quite hit it, right?
Hey, Pong,
And they did that. Yeah, go ahead.
quick question. Do you think that this was, and I look at it this way with Cyberpunk, it was a No Man's Sky situation where a lot of the media hyped it up and made it where it wasn't supposed to be, and then everyone got behind it, the game?
I think
I think CD Projekt Red did that to themselves.
They did. I think, but I think it's a both things, because when I played, Cyberpunk, to me, everybody thought it was going to be like GTA, but it's not. It's not. It's a little bit. It's a nice little kind of tight story, of course, with an open world that you can then kind of go into. But it wasn't what people making it sound like it was the end to be all games.
Right. But CD Projekt Red did that, right? They were shooting. I mean, they were shooting for it. And again, it got so ambitious. Look, let's be real. They should have just announced that they were dropping last gen altogether, right? They should have done that. And they should have focused solely on PC and current gen. And I think we would have had a much better game. But they didn't do that. They shot for the stars, didn't work out. They took their lumps. A lot of people got on the train of hating on this game without ever even trying it out for themselves, because that's what happens nowadays, especially in the social media world. Again, go back, try this for yourself. They're giving away a 5-hour free trial, which you can try it all out on any system that you want to. Your save will carry over to the main game. So it's a perfect way if you're not ready to drop the money. I know it's on sale right now, I think on Xbox for $28, $27.99 or something like that. Try it out first. See if it's something that you're going to enjoy. But I'm telling you, there is so much to discover in this world of Cyberpunk that it really is. And I can tell you, I've already got the patch downloaded. I fired it up real quick before the show. The quality of life stuff they've already implemented, you can already tell the loading times are cut way down, especially, obviously I've got it on my internal on the Series X, but it is so fast now. It was fast before, but now it's even faster. So that stuff, I believe that they've gotten right. The draw distance has improved. I've already seen that. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect, but it's definitely better. I flipped on the ray tracing mode. Look, if you can play on that ray tracing mode in 30 frames, God bless you. Okay, I popped it on, and literally 10 seconds later, I was like, yeah, no, we're not even going to do this. I cannot do this frame rate at all, but it feels even better on the performance mode. It's even smoother than it was before. So they are definitely getting things right with this game. And again, before, for me, it already was right. So I can't wait. I got to go back and redo all my skills. They reset all the skill trees, so I got to go back and fix those because they added some different ones, took some other ones out. So much in that patch notes. Be able to change your appearance in the mirror, that's huge. There's still things missing. I wish they would have brought back the subway that they promised, the tram system that they had promised. That is something that modders have done on PCs. So there are still things missing, but this game is fantastic. I'm just hoping now that this patch is out, despite all these games coming out, that people jump back into it and at least try it and see. Because again, CD Projekt Red is still one of the best developers, especially when it comes to Western RPGs. And writing in this game is top notch. The characters are unbelievable. I got attached to characters very early on, and that doesn't happen in every video game for me. So please go try this out. But this is an exciting day for all of us fans, as well as hopefully new people jumping into it. So
nice, strong point.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Let me thank Reggie Mobile 9 in the chat. Drops the first super chat of the day. Reggie Mobile, brother, thanks for being here. And of course, thank you for the generosity. He says this: great show, Boom and crew. Loved Cyberpunk 2077. And like Pong, I haven't finished it yet. LOL. I'm ready to jump back in. Yeah, this is this is going to be an interesting week to jump back into it for me, because obviously Horizon Zero Forbidden West is coming out. You also have a week after that. What's coming out a week after that? The one that's like
Elden Ring.
Yeah,
Elden
Ring. Yes, and of course this is so. I think you're going to have to pick your poison, because I don't think you're going to be able to get to all three. That is for sure. And among there's a ton of other smaller games that have come out. Some new stuff into Xbox Game Pass. One that's kind of like an old school 8-bit Castlevania title, which I am going to play. That looks dope for sure. Let's bring in Mr. Joanna Dark. You're also a huge Cyberpunk fan. What does this? What does the 1.5 patch do for you?
It allows me to go back and finally start my second playthrough. That's one of the things that I wanted to do. I mean, I played Cyberpunk on PC first when it came out day one, and like Pong Soul said, did I have bugs? Yeah, probably I think 50 hours in, but I think the game was phenomenal. I love the stories it told, the different people that I met, kind of the emergent gameplay, being a person that loves these immersive sims. And I think that many people that, you know, didn't give it a chance, they kind of just went on this bandwagon to kind of say it was a bad game. And I understand, if I only had a last gen console, or if I was playing on current gen, but even that I had it on Xbox, I own it on everything, even on Stadia. And did I run into some bugs? Probably, but I'm used to also playing a lot of early access games, and I'm also used to playing big open world games like Fallout and Bethesda games that sometimes can have bugs. Looking at this patch, similar to The Witcher, after 5 years, it looks like the new skill tree, all these different changes that kind of make it, I think, what they wanted to do eventually. So I'm kind of happy that people that haven't played it and kind of waited on this patch are now able to kind of experience the game the way it was meant to be played. With, I guess, more, stable and a better, FPS. I guess the only thing that I'm a little bit upset is, not taking advantage of the Series S, which I know can probably do 60 FPS. When it comes to a mode, but hopefully that's something down the road with future patches. I'm excited. I have it right now updating on Xbox, because now that I played it on PC, I think Xbox is the next second playthrough I'm going to do, and I'm just excited to jump back into that world, hang out with Johnny Silverhand and the rest of the crew. So yeah, awesome.
Nice. There's strong points. Real quick, Matt, before I bring you in on the conversation, Drawn TJ, generous friend of the show, drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, when is the multiplayer or co-op coming to Cyberpunk that they promised? And
They
I
canceled the multiplayer.
They nixed it. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
nixed it. From what I understand, yes. I was actually, thanks for the clarification. I was actually just going to say that they did in fact nix the multiplayer, which I'm gonna be honest with you. I personally don't care, because I wouldn't play it anyway. But I just think that they promised something that they knew they couldn't deliver, and they came out. This is going back a while. As a matter of fact, they canceled the multiplayer. So again, if you were looking forward to it, I'm sorry for that, but I don't think that it's a game like that is, in theory, on paper, multiplayer sounds great, but to be honest with you, it is probably best enjoyed by yourself. Again, that's just my opinion on it. But Mav, what does this patch do for you? Have you played Cyberpunk? Were you like me, in the wrapper still?
No, I started it and I got several hours in, and then I think we got word that there was going to be like the next gen patch,
Nice.
and that was going to come. And I thought it was going to come sooner than later. So I was like, okay, I'm not one to really play through these games like multiple times, right? So at that point, I was like, I'm enjoying it, but I want to play it at its best. So I kind of put it on the side, and I was like, I'll come back to it. So this has me excited. It's finally here, so I can dive back in and play that game in all of its glory and get the best experience possible. Which, it wasn't like a bad experience to begin with. Like for me on a next gen console, because that's where I was playing. It was still very playable. It had bugs, like a lot of games have bugs, but it wasn't like on next gen consoles. It wasn't like the crazy scenario that we see that it was made out to be. And again, like Pong was talking about, that was created, in my opinion, by the marketing from CD Projekt Red from the get go. Like ever since that game was announced, it was like, this is the biggest and best thing we've ever created, you know, and all the stuff that they showed was like mind blowing, right? And you got to wonder what that was all running on. Like, what was that even possibly running on? The fact that they even like marketed it that much and it was targeted as a last gen release was crazy, right? And could you imagine if that game, I've said this many times, had released without next gen consoles even out there and without next gen graphics cards out there?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Like if all that was there was last gen, like that would have been even more catastrophic, right? That being said, I think again, you know, a lot of it was overselling and setting improper expectations from the get-go. And I don't know if it was the fact that they were just trying to lie. I think they really wanted to create that, what they were trying to achieve, and their ambition was insane. Ambition is insane.
I never faulted Dev for being too ambitious.
No, exactly. You never want to fault for being too ambitious, but you do want to fault for making poor management decisions and marketing and messaging, right? Like you always, that's why I'm more forgiving with some bugs than some other people, because I don't want a world in which we have no bugs because we stifle ambition and only release games like Nintendo has.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And yeah, they're great. They don't have bugs and they're polished experiences, but you know, I also want these big, huge open worlds and all this online interactivity and all this stuff, and I want the genres to keep pushing forward. So, at what point does a bug stifle and ambition? Not having bugs stifle ambition, and that's one thing about the Elder Scrolls games and like Bethesda. They're always so massive, right? But they always launch with a lot of bugs. So when CD Projekt Red launched with bugs, I was like, you know, that's kind of what I expected for a game that's this ambitious, but it was way over promised with the messaging and everything. And I'm glad it's finally getting to this point now, because this should have been the target, like Pong said, the target release to begin with, just next gen, cut out that last gen stuff. It would have been a hard pill to swallow for them to lose that much of a player base. But look what it did. Look what it cost them. They had to give all those refunds. They had to do all this stuff. It was a huge, huge mishap. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's still a great game. You have an amazing story. You have great characters. You have great RPG mechanics. Fantastic game that I think is going to live on for a really long time. And this patch is going to help get it to that point, to refresh in people's minds about what a quality game this actually is on every other aspect, because there'll be less paying attention to the car that just exploded randomly in front of them out of nowhere. And
that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, you know, those things happen, you know, sometimes. Instead, now they'll be paying attention to the story and all these things and appreciating it for what it is. So, man, I'm super glad the patch is finally here, and I'm going to be giving it a go again really soon.
Great stuff. Let's get VJ in on the conversation. First of all, VJ, welcome to the panel once again. Glad to have you here each and every week with us to bring your very unique and detailed perspective to the conversation. For you, where does this patch fall? Was Cyberpunk something that you waited on? Did you play through it, or were you like me waiting for the next gen patch to really get the best out of the game?
Thanks for the welcome again, Boom. As a consumer, I bought Cyberpunk 2077 on day one for the Series X, and obviously there were some comical bugs aside, but I think I'm like Pong Soul. I actually really enjoyed them. Actually added some levity to the whole experience, if I'm quite honest with you. And I completed the game. In terms of the main storyline and some of the side quests and so on and so forth. And I just, I thoroughly enjoyed my time. So I had no issues with the game. And I was fortunate because I was able to play on the Series X at a time when people are still, well, even today, people are struggling to get a hold of a system. But sort of listening to Pong's sort of emphatic and exhausting take on the game and the patch and so on and so forth, it's kind of taken my thoughts to look at CDPR since the ill-fated launch of the game. Regardless of the fact that it sold 13 million units, right, or whatever it was, and as Mav was saying, perhaps a vast number of those were refunded. it kind of leads me just to think about, like, the sort of vast criticism we see these days in terms of what the publishers and developers receive in general. And to Mav's point, I agree, that I hope we're living in a far more redemptive society than it often appears to be. And this is in relation to his comments about, look, bugs are going to be there and they will get fixed, and they should get fixed, right? And redemptive in the terms of everything's to a degree, of course. But in relation to sort of, for me, it's like looking at CDPR's recovery, or maybe that's a little bit early to say, or potential road to recovery, sort of specifically in terms of being a developer, publisher, and all the devs that are working there, and in terms of the situation that they've had with their shareholders, and you got to look at it like this: is that we talked about this prior to the launch, right? If you look at the amount of time, money, and energy, respectively speaking, right, with those three sort of main pillars contributing to the game over a 5 to 6 period, they should get a chance to put things right if the opportunity is there to do so, right? And if the gaming community be patient enough with them, right? Because obviously this is a massive misstep, right, in terms of their history and in terms of a sort of a dent in their reputation. Personally, I'm glad that the potential shareholder legal action and the studio unrest has quietened down or is being managed behind closed doors. I may be wrong, right? So I don't keep up with the news as much as I used to. So please correct me if I'm wrong. But what I'm hoping is that CDPR haven't simply just put a lid on the situation, but have like sort of, as Mav was saying, refunded consumers, faced up and apologized accordingly to all the different people that have meant something to the project or have contributed to it, and obviously the dev staff involved as well, but have sat back and really looked at the situation and set out a roadmap. And I hope this is just the first part of their roadmap, right, in terms of what we're going to do with this game. I think it deserves a lot of care, and attention going forward, but also sort of owned up to everyone involved, basically, and invested in it helping now to get the company back on its feet. And the other thing is that I would say that I know it's for them, it's been a painful lesson, right? And sometimes you have to have like a painful lesson to sort of, have that reality check, right? And sometimes, those painful lessons have to be learned the hard way. But the real issue or the crime for me would be if CDPR haven't taken stock nor learned based on what's sort of gone on their recent history and haven't evolved and improved. As a developer, creating the best possible work environment for their staff going forward, because we all heard about the crunch. It's not that it's inevitable, it was just to the degree of the crunch, right? B, I would say as a publisher, sort of ensuring that what's being released actually comes close or meets an industry standard, bar a few bugs, as to what customers or consumers have come to expect, especially serious gamers, right, on this panel and in the chat, of course, right? And C, as a public company, right, since major shareholders are the ones who invest the money, right, so you can enjoy what you love to do, and not many people can say that, right? And albeit for a return, right? I'll caveat it with that. So look, I don't want to see CDPR dwindle or disappear. I want them to go from strength to strength. They've been good for the industry per se, and hopefully they straighten themselves out. And full disclosure here, Boom, you probably know, right? Because I've podcasted you for so long, but I've obviously got a sort of a historical and personal affinity with Poland, right? So, and as I say, I know for some have, like yourself, Boom, have waited to play Cyberpunk 2077, and I think you're going to be in for a really fantastic ride. So, and for me, it's going to be my second playthrough, and I'm looking forward to it as well.
Nice. Well, listen, I love how we open up the show, get some breaking news. Obviously, they had at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the 31-minute breakdown of patch 1.5. I love the fact that we were able to all break it down, give our opinions. I got to welcome in 310 people here. Want to say, please, if you're enjoying the cast, consider hitting the like button, of course, and share this out on social media. And, of course, if you are new, well, why don't you help me continue the march towards 25K? That's right. I'm skipping over 15. I'm skipping over 20. I'm going right for the plaque that I want sitting right next to my energy sword. All jokes aside, folks, we crossed 10K a couple of weeks ago. One of the biggest achievements so far, besides getting the first sub, which was Mrs. BoomStick. Always going to be number one. That is for sure. But I want to open up the second topic. And Pong, we're going to Platinum Games again, ladies and gentlemen, because my God, I'm starting to feel like Randolph Thor 19. Every time he has a new show, there's something about Platinum Games that we have to talk about. And folks, before we get into that, I want to thank Danny, Passion Official, with the outstanding and very generous $5 super chat, and says, I really enjoyed Cyberpunk 2077 day one. This update is what I need to start my second playthrough. Wow, there's a lot of people running through this game a second time. The only thing that that used to bother me was the NPC repeatedly. I don't know what that means, the NPC. But whatever it is, it bothered you enough, but it didn't bother you enough not to run through the game a second time. And that really is saying something there, Danny. Thanks so much for the generosity. And of course, you being here as always, folks. Well, like I said a few minutes ago, Platinum's CEO says that he wouldn't dismiss acquisition offers as long as freedom is respected. And President Atsushi Inaba thinks Activision will be afforded autonomy under Microsoft. And I think that he is 100% right. Now, basically speaking with VGC following the recent promotion to president and CEO, Atsushi Inaba was asked about recent consolidation in the gaming industry, most significantly marked by Microsoft's $70 billion buyout of Activision Blizzard. Now, this story was pulled from our good friends over at Video Games Chronicle, and it was written by Andy Robinson. And this is what he had to say. The most important thing for us is to have the freedom to make the games that we want to make. What I hear about the recent acquisitions, I don't think Microsoft is going to start micromanaging Activision to where they take away all of their freedom. I don't think it's going to be a relationship like that. Now, this Pong, he continues, I think there's going to be a lot of mutual respect there, and I think that Activision will be able to continue doing what they do best. That's also what's most important to us at the end of the day, whatever form that takes for us and our company. So I would not turn anything down as long as our freedom is respected. Now, Pong, I got to be honest with you. If that doesn't say, hey, Microsoft, buy us, I don't know what it is. Listen, I understand there were plenty of people in this chat, over 300 people, some of which would be like, you know something, I don't like Platinum because of what they did. I don't trust them. But business is business. And we did hear directly from Jez Corden of Windows Central, friend of this show and voice of the Xbox 2 podcast weekly with Randolph Thor 19, that a lot of the hearsay was not in fact true. Now, look, I've said this before and I will say it again. Whether you think Japan is important to Microsoft is irrelevant. I am here to tell you that it is important to Phil Spencer, head of Microsoft Gaming. And even though they have failed in Japan on numerous attempts, they are not looking to have that happen again. And with Tango Gameworks, that's a great Japanese studio with a great head running the show. But I'm going to tell you this right now. This is an opportunity for Microsoft to add to their Japanese studios, and bringing in someone like Platinum Games, I think would ring tremendous dividends. What are your thoughts on this, Pong?
Let me start here. I'll give you a tweet, a quote from Seamus Blackley, one of the fathers of Xbox, who responded to this article directly. He quote tweeted it and said, "These are wonderful, insane, and creative weirdos, and we would all be better off the more freedom and opportunity they have, in my honest opinion." I agree 1,000,000% with Seamus.
So the father of Xbox is saying that basically, hey, Phil, sign these guys up.
Correct. He is in the same boat as I am. Anybody who's listened to me on any of my shows, when we talk about the Eastern style games, they aren't for everybody. I totally get that. They're not everybody's cup of tea, as VJ would say. But at the end of the day, what they do bring is exactly what Mr. Blackley had to say, which is creative and weird. And I love that about Platinum Games. Not to mention some of the best action games you will ever find. Just go look at Bayonetta or, any one of their games, Near Automata, and you will find something very special in how they develop their games. Now, that's their A team, right? Now, we've seen their secondary team have hit and misses, but their A team is out of this world when it comes to creating a game full of style, full of atmosphere, full of craziness. And I absolutely wish and would love for that to be underneath the Xbox umbrella, because they do have a name over in the East. They are something special. That's why you saw Nintendo go out and license Bayonetta from Sega and give it back to Platinum and say, hey, make us another exclusive Bayonetta 3, please. Why? Because that game has a ton of draw over in the East. Look, and in the West. Bayonetta is popular everywhere, but especially in the East. So I would love to see this. Now, obviously, Platinum has been very vocal from top to bottom here now at this point in putting it out there into the universe that they would like to be working for somebody. I don't think that this is abnormal. I think they're trying to find suitors. If there's one or two lined up that they've talked to already, maybe they're trying to, do a little business here and get that price point up a little ways. That's certainly something they could be doing behind the scenes as well. But they are kind of like the free agent devs, right? They go around and make games for everybody. They don't own any of the IP that they've worked on. And that's the crazy part about this. And I think that maybe the time has finally come where they realize that it's not actually the best way to go about making games, because you're always under the gun and you're always underneath somebody else's gun to get these games done. And we obviously saw what happened or what didn't happen with Xbox. And I think that they would love a second opportunity to get back at it, but also to be underneath somebody else's umbrella, not have to worry about marketing marketing themselves, not having to worry about the resources all the time, and just going and doing what they do best, which is create awesome, amazing games. And I think that really comes down to it. We've seen that with Double Fine and Tim Schafer and his crew. And I always go back to them because Tim Schafer and his crew over at Double Fine are some of the most creative, genius people in the industry, but they don't make games that are for everybody, right? They don't make those blockbuster triple A games that, gets all the hype and it sells, 10, 15, 20 million copies. That's not what their forte is. But they bring experiences that you don't get from other developers.
100%.
And it's very unique experiences. Yes. And they know what they're good at, and they go out and do that on a consistent basis. And all that time, even though they've been lauded, even though they've been up for awards, even though everybody knows Tim Schafer and what his crew is all about and what they can do, every game that they were making was something that they were worried that could be their last game sometimes, right? Because they didn't know where it was going to come from next. And Tim
it's funny you say that. That's pretty interesting, because what we have seen Microsoft do is save companies from snatched companies from the jaws of extinction. We've seen it with Ninja Theory.
Yep.
You've seen it now with Tim Schafer and his company over at Double Fine. You've also seen it with the company that makes the RPGs. Their name is skipping my mind. Holy matrimony! I'll come back to it in a second.
Compulsion in Exile.
In Exile, Compulsion is another one. Compulsion, small team. Yep. We Happy Few didn't do as well as they would have expected. Just imagine if Microsoft doesn't step in and acquire them, what happens to that team? That's another studio out, that's in the trash pile that would never come back. Platinum Games, if you've noticed, the reason why they've had to take on so many projects is because they needed the funding. If they're under the Microsoft umbrella, and you can have the A and B team working with a budget that allows them to, like you said, get wacky and crazy and do what they do best. you might have something incredibly special. And who's to say that they don't bring back? I hate to say this, and I'm actually no, I'm not. I'm not the hate. I want Scalebound to come back. Imagine the A team with the budget and the time. Hey, you didn't know Unreal Engine? Well, the Coalition is going to come over and they're going to teach you Unreal Engine 5. And would that not be an incredible rags to riches story, Pong?
Of course. And we all love redemption stories, or most of
Who
us do,
doesn't?
right? Right, exactly. And what a perfect way, again, to have all this support that they would have underneath the Xbox umbrella, like you just mentioned, Boom, to help them along with any issues that they may have had. Whereas a free agent developer on their own, they really, couldn't go to people like that. Now they would have a family of studios to help them along. And they've already expressed interest in moving to a games as a service style games. They've already shown all this interest that aligns with what Microsoft and Xbox are looking for right now. So look, at the end of the day, if Xbox isn't ready to make that commitment, which I totally understand, why not do a trial run? Do the Scalebound, give them their old IP back. This was supposedly Kamiya's baby that he's wanted to make forever. Give it back to him. Okay, let them go to work on it. Start Scalebound up. And just like we're hearing that is a possibility with teams like IO, like Avalanche, give them a trial run. See how they do. They're going to put their best foot forward the second time.
There's no doubt about it.
That was my take on the whole whether or not we bring back Scalebound. You're going to get your best foot forward. And if you add to that the possibility of being acquired and coming underneath the Xbox umbrella and being given creative freedom, you don't think that A team is not going to be putting extra special sauce into that? Of course they are. Of course they are. If this is what they want and this is what they're out here shopping for, they're going to give it their all. So let them try it out, see how they work. You can see directly how they work. You saw before, but that wasn't their best, right? That was a problem. That was a while ago. This is business. That was a while ago. See how the team has matured. See if they do work underneath 100%. The Microsoft way, and then go from there. Look, I love this idea. Platinum Games would be a huge, huge win for Xbox to bring them underneath. I believe that truly. I know there's people out there that don't like them, hold grudges. I get all of that. That's fine. I'm putting all that aside and saying, look, at the end of the day, they would be an asset to the Xbox umbrella, to the Xbox teams to have them here. So let's try it. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, before we bring in Mr. Joanna Dark, I got to thank an absolutely incredible super chat of $50 comes in from Bold Alpha Wolfpack. Brother, welcome back to the show. And of course, thank you for the extreme generosity. He says this. Sorry I missed the stream the other day, Boom. I caught a good hour of it at work. Pong, in the house. Let's go. Get these super chats popping. Well, indeed, you certainly did. And thank you for the absolutely incredible generosity. And he drops another one, if the first one wasn't enough, for $10 and says, what's up, Pong's inner speculation on Scalebound? Well, there you go.
Well, I just alluded to it there, good sir. I believe that Scalebound is worthy of a comeback, and that you would get the A game from you would get the A team from Platinum, and they would be putting all of their best into it this time around. I believe it's worth a second chance for sure.
I absolutely 100% agree with that. I think there are certain things, Mr. Joanna Dark, that happen in gaming, in life, that sometimes happen for specific reasons that we don't know. This is one of those situations where we have heard, and obviously we've heard it poo-pooed, that the whole mythos of trying to acquire a Japanese store historically is false. That's a false narrative. Why people continue to run with it, I have no idea. But we do know, Mr. Joanna Dark, that Phil Spencer has said on numerous occasions that he wants a bigger presence in Japan. He also said that he wants to acquire a Japanese studio. Now, granted, Tango came with the Bethesda purchase, and that still counts because that studio was in Japan. But I think what he was looking for was potentially is a studio like Platinum Games. Hearing them come out and basically say, we want to be acquired and we like what Microsoft is doing and we want to make Scalebound, I actually don't know how clear it needs to be any further. Where do you stand? Does Platinum Games deserve a second shot, even potentially to be acquired by Microsoft? Would that be an acquisition that would be worthy for Microsoft?
I 100% agree with Pong that Platinum is very talented. And I'm going to make a couple of different points. One thing that people forget is that back in the 360 era, a lot of Japanese developers weren't as acquainted with Unreal because it was a Western type of engine. So they use a lot of their own proprietary engines. We started to see Bandai Namco kind of dive in with their games slowly with Tekken and so forth. And it wasn't until recently, even Nintendo with the Switch, that said, hey, we now support Unreal, because Miyamoto came out and said as well that they weren't kind of, didn't know the engine. So a lot of Japanese developers have started to use Unreal. Second, to kind of go with Pong, I look at Platinum, right? And there's two teams. There's an A team and a B team that we kind of associate with. And sometimes it's not that I think the B team is bad, and I can attribute this to kind of the whole thing with Rocksteady, right? With Batman Origins, right? People discredit their B team because, it wasn't Rocksteady, right? So what I look at is, if they had the funding, they would be able to put people on that other team that can help them get over some of the things that maybe they kind of came with some of the games that they provided. Second of all, like many developers that were small and they were trying to make their next game, they didn't have the funding, so they had to do with whatever budgets they had. Look at In Exile, right? They made Wasteland, and as you can see, from Wasteland 2 to Wasteland 3, when they got acquired by Microsoft, they were able to put more voices into their game. They were able to fulfill that world much better. And it all comes down to business. As someone who's worked with different teams and worked with different parties, sometimes things go wrong. Look at the Xbox One era. There was a lot of things that Microsoft did to kind of not gain, the trust of many developers, because it was a different time, right? Different leadership. And when I look at Platinum, right, they recently the CEO left, and now they have new management. And I think that there's talent there that, with the right person behind, can unlock a lot of the potential, and we can see some amazing games. And I think Scalebound was a tale of not only just a developer. Let's kind of put it to right now with Cyberpunk. It was an idea that sounds pretty ambitious, but a tale of two different companies, Microsoft being in a different mindset and Platinum at the moment not being as, again, adequate with something like Unreal, because again, maybe they didn't even have the money to maybe get some of these development kits to kind of even go in there. And what they did is they tried their best to kind of learn on the job, and it eventually, that lack of understanding caught up to them. I would love to see them. I think that if they make a deal with Microsoft and give them a shot to make this to make Scalebound, it can be something similar to what we got with Nier, which was an incredible game. And it's kind of what we see with these deals that we kind of talk about with with Avalanche, with IO Interactive. Give them a shot, but I really think there's a lot of talent there. I mean, they gave us Vanquish. They gave us Bayonetta. I love Bayonetta.
Yeah, me too.
They gave us Transformers. So you can see that with the proper funding, putting in the proper team and people to kind of guide.
They gave us Metal Gear
expand.
Rising, which, by the way, is one of my favorite Metal Gear games outside of MGS1.
And I think in a way of trying to break into that market, I think kind of on good faith, it would be great for Phil to kind of sit down and talk and see what's realistic, see what they can work on and meet in the middle. If it doesn't work out, then move on. But you know what? At least you tried. And that kind of gives the optics of saying, hey, you know what? Microsoft is willing to forgive. Maybe we didn't have good relations with, with the current people that were there, but the new, Phil and his new team, they're willing to work with us. And I think that goes a long way in showing good faith. And if you get Platinum, slowly that can kind of be like the domino that you need to have more people interested to come and work with Microsoft. And Tango 100%. Can be kind of that place. But definitely would love Scalebound.
Yeah, that makes two of us. Mav, Kia Walker in the chat drops an outstanding $5 super chat, and he says this is all a ploy by Platinum to get the Scalebound IP back and raise their sales price for another company besides Microsoft to buy them. Do you agree with that?
It could be. Who knows? Like, the thing is, like, they're being very vocal, like with these interviews. Is very strange, right? So that you got to always weigh that into perspective, right? Like, being in an interview saying, yeah, we're open to being acquired. Why not? That doesn't happen very often. And also, it doesn't happen very often when you're pleading to a platform holder to publish a game for you, right? And to revive an IP that you failed to deliver on in the past. So there's always that aspect. However, I don't care. I just say Microsoft, go buy the guys. If they
I'm right
want
there
it,
with you.
if they want it, like you've always struggled to get Japanese games on your platform. Regardless of anything else, regardless of the chaos or the what happened in the past or whatever, this is business, right? And a developer that's capable of making great action hack and slash Japanese style games is basically saying they're open to be acquired. And they seem to be completely open to be acquired by Microsoft as long as they're not willing to take away their creative freedom. That seems like a match to me. You know what I mean? Like, it just to put yourself in this perspective, let's say Sony buys Platinum, right? As an Xbox fan, does that make you happy? Right? For me,
Yeah.
as an Xbox gamer, like, I want those games in Game Pass. Like those Platinum games, I don't want to see the Sony platform just keep getting stronger with Japanese games. They already have a lot, right? That's something that's lacking in the Xbox ecosystem. I want to see more of that. And if it takes going and talking to those guys and saying, "Hey, let's do this thing. Let's make a deal happen." You potentially get Scalebound out of it, and maybe you get other new IP. The talent there is undeniable. Near Automata, Astral Chain, just two of the releases they've had since the whole Scalebound fiasco. Bayonetta, they're about to have another one. They're making Babylon's Fall right now for PlayStation. So if you're an Xbox fan and they're saying, hey, we're available and we like kind of what you're doing with Activision Blizzard, we like what you've done with these other developers with creative freedom and all this stuff, and hey, we're available. Hey, let's do it, Phil. Let's bring back Scalebound. Do it. You know what? Don't let them get the bid price up to sell to somebody else. Go ahead and do it. Pull the trigger.
Yeah, if anyone in the
want it.
chat knows where to find the market cap value for Platinum Games, just throw it into the chat and we'll give you a shout out.
It'll be probably ridiculous because it'll be in yen, but it'll have a dollar sign next to it, so it'll look like $80 trillion, but it's really like 100 million or a billion or something like that. Yeah, I just think Platinum is a great developer, and I would hate to see those go to exclusive to another platform as somebody that wants games to hit Game Pass.
I absolutely agree, and I think that there is an opportunity here. VJ, I want to bring you in on the conversation for a couple of reasons. One thing that we have seen Sony dominate the conversation with has been the amount of Japanese games that they have that are exclusive. And a lot of the times we see games in the Japanese from the Japanese region launch on the Switch to great success, as well as PlayStation. And they seem to almost always skip Xbox. Something like Near Automata, we didn't get for years after it originally launched. Now, that's not saying that it's not valuable, but I dislike the fact that as an Xbox gamer who enjoys JRPGs and that type of genre out of that region of the world, we always have to wait. This is an opportunity for Microsoft to take advantage of a golden opportunity. Now, as we're talking, ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting updates. And Andy Robinson of VGC, Video Games Chronicle, just dropped another new article regarding Scalebound. And it's titled, Hideki Kayama says that he's totally serious, quote unquote, about resurrecting Xbox exclusive Scalebound, but the Platinum Games designer won't say if he's opened discussions with Microsoft as of yet. Now, that could be, folks. If he's not willing to comment on it, again, this is speculation town. Pong, Mav, get ready, co-mayors. And I know that I am now the governor, so I have a little bit more power. So here's the thing. He's not saying, BJ, I'm not suggesting that him not saying is basically him letting the cat out of the bag that he's on the NDA. He can't say anything more because they signed the deal to secretly bring this game back. In your opinion, as someone that has seen the Japanese market for Xbox, is this a deal that Phil Spencer should consider?
Look, we know that Microsoft needs to get its act together in Japan, right? And I've been saying this for years, but I want to just focus on Platinum Games, right? Because that seems to be the topic, right? So I'm in agreement with everything that you've said, but if we focus on Platinum Games, so I might talk for a little bit here, so please forgive me because it's just that the panel.
Well, it's a conversational podcast, my brother. Take it away.
Thank you. But I think that back when Xbox was acquiring all sorts of devs in 2017, 2018, I mean, they acquired quite a few studios, right? I think I'm pretty sure that they did look at Platinum Games from what I can recall. And the thing for me is with everything that's going on at Xbox right now, I just think that they're looking sort of further up into the heavens, right, in terms of what they want to do strategically. Do they really need to get involved with Platinum Games rather than what we discussed like previously? I think it was last week, perhaps a slew of sort of strategic relationships, you know, and I think that would be a better approach to redemption rather than sort of, I don't know a nice way of putting this, but jumping into bed together and finding out, you know, that either party isn't as well endowed as one thought each other might be, right? So
I love it. Take it away. Keep it rolling. I like this.
On the surface, for fans at least, look, we all have a desire. I only own an Xbox and a Switch, right? I don't own all the systems, right? So as fans, we all have a desire for Xbox to take on Sony and Nintendo, especially in their own backyard, right? Because Sony do it over here, right? I'm not so worried about what Sony do in Japan because we know that that's history. It's well documented, right? And it's just that Microsoft, you know, put up with Sony over here, but they don't take them on in their own backyard. They've tried, but unsuccessfully, right? And there's a reason for it, and I'll come on to that, right? And on the surface of it all, right, Platinum Games looks like a great little pickup, right? And, you know, you've got Hideki-san there, you've got Kamiya-san and Shinji, right? Mikami-san, right? Over at Tango, right? And all three of them, right? Before Shinji left, they founded Platinum Games together. So, but I think that's where the inherent problem lies, right? I don't know if you guys all recall Clover Studios, right? After that fantastic game for Okami, right? Which again was on PS2 for a number of years. Boom was saying, you know, didn't appear on other formats till much later, right? So, and that was sort of developed for Capcom, right? And then the studio was sort of acrimoniously closed down, right? And I remember that because I was there at the time, right? And sources say, right, and the speak was, or the chatter was, that Inaba-san, right, orchestrated the departure of Hideki Kamiya, Shinji Mikami, and an influential producer whose name escaped me, so I'm sorry about that, to form Platinum Games, right? And Inaba-san, even 15 to 20 years ago, had his sights or his designs set on being a developer publisher, right? A Capcom of his own, if you like. And with Kamiya Mikami-san, right, at the height of their powers, right, and popular in terms of popularity and in terms of creating two of the most popular action IPs of all time, right? Arguably, you know, depending if you're into that sort of thing, right? Inaba-san thought he pulled off the coup of the century, right? Especially with funding from Sega already secured and ready to go, right, for Platinum Games, right? And Pongsol mentioned Bayonetta and so on and so forth, right? And Level 5 also at the time announced that their ambition was to stop developing games just for Square Enix, which, let's be honest, Platinum Games are doing right now, right? And create their own IP and internally expand and become a publisher in their own right? Especially after the gargantuan success of Dragon Quest VIII on the PS2, which is a beloved game of mine. I don't know if anyone's ever familiar with that. But anyway, so you've got Mikami-san, who left Osaka for Tokyo, right, very early on, as I recall, and actually went to an ex-CEO Sega for funding for his own studio, and I'm not sure if that ultimately culminated in establishing Tango Softworks and it's sort of almost instantaneous purchase by ZeniMax, right? But you know how that story pans out. But Platinum Games with Inaba-san, right? For me, when I look at them, right, are primarily working for Nintendo and Square Enix, applying their action template to concepts, right, and have been doing so for quite a number of years. And Nintendo and Square Enix, from my recollection, they have huge budgets to throw around, right? But produce and when they produce a game with an external party, they rule them with an iron fist. And Platinum do lack discipline from time to time, right? And Inaba-san, for all intents and purposes, hasn't primarily realized his ambitions. And I think any outreach to Xbox is a desire to sort of circumvent or get rid of the current lack of freedom that they're enjoying, right? In terms of how their business is developing and expanding, despite the minor investment from Tencent that they've currently received, right? And if you look at Capcom, and they were a company that had to rebuild, right? And we're almost at the point of destruction themselves, right? And they've gone from strength to strength, right? After almost collapsing, as I was saying, right? They are a company reborn, right? And I perhaps would argue that they're blessed with perhaps even more creative talent than ever before, but I won't go into why now, right? Because that's not the topic. But my question would be, have Kamiya and Mikami-san, right, hit the heights that they did since leaving Capcom? And I think there's an argument to say no, right? And perhaps why Xbox never maintained relationships or a working relationship with people like Sakaguchi-san, right, in the past, right? And to put it politely or gently, the main reason why Xbox are sort of floundering a little bit in Japan, because the Xbox team, how can I put it polite? Leave a lot to be desired, right? And perhaps this is why we hear of Phil and Miss Bond, right? Travel to Tokyo and Osaka with far more frequency.
They literally were just in Japan.
Yeah, exactly. And they're going there with more regular frequency, right? So I just don't think Phil needs the hassle or the politics that PG might offer in the future. And again, is it worth his time? I would say that there are more deserving teams or opportunities in Japan, right? And Phil can, if you think of it this way, Phil's in a position right now he can grant any studio a meal ticket, right? Phil can purchase Platinum Games, and perhaps it's already done, right? And that's why these rumors are coming out, right? And even if it never bears fruit, the issue, as I say, is that PG. Does PG, and I think someone mentioned this already, that does PG have any worthwhile projects of interest to Xbox, right? And do they currently have, and for the Xbox itself, who will have to manage it, the Japanese team there, right? I feel Phil's got to have the confidence that they've got the nous and the clout, right, and the know-how, right, that Nintendo and Square do in terms of project creativity, contribution, and firm project oversight, right? And I don't want to go on to talk about Scalebound because you guys know about that better than me. And my initial thought was, well, why don't they go and expand Tango? But then a thought occurred to me: Mikami-san these days, respected by so many. He's a bit like the guy over at Ninja Theory. Is it Tamim Antoinadis or something? I can't pronounce his surname, so forgive me.
Yeah.
In terms of that, he likes to work with smaller teams, right? And on over an elongated period of time to get his projects right. I think Inaba-san might just be calling on the name of Xbox to garner interest from other suitors. Again, not sort of ruling out that the deal might already be done, but for looking from interest from other suitors, or for Tencent to buy them at lock, stock, and two smoking barrels, right? But he's someone who's really ruthless, smart, but mercenary, and a businessman. And he's happy to put his publishing ideals and now is happy to become a first-party studio with all the trappings of wealth and freedom that it affords, right? And plus, of course, the acquisition, sort of cash that ensues as a result. He's for me, he's definitely one who goes against the grain of local culture for sure. And as I say, there's plenty of fish in the sea of Japan if you're willing to work at it, unless you're desperate for a brand name, which I don't think Microsoft are right now. I think they pretty much own prime real estate, as things are developing right in front of, or unfolding before our very eyes, right? And I think, as we've spoken about before, I think a slew of strategic relationships, right, across Japan, right, which perhaps culminate in an acquisition is the way to go, right? And again, I point to Capcom as a prime example of what can be achieved from practically scratch, right, the second time around, right? And perhaps actually, I know I mentioned level 5, perhaps they're worth a look, right? But I don't know. It's all opinions at the end of the day.
I like what you're going. Listen, everyone had an incredible take on it. Some people think that it's worthy, others think otherwise, and that's why we have an open-ended discussion.
BJ's cheating though, Boom. He cheats because he's got intimate knowledge of the Japanese market.
He does
and
have
he comes
intimate
with all
knowledge.
these great points with names attached to them, stats and facts that none of us normal gamers could ever have. So VJ cheats.
Well, listen,
Yeah.
you know what? He's not going to show
true.
you his hand. He's going to break you down, and you're going to like it. Listen, let's get on to topic number 3. But before we do, I got to thank a couple of super chats. I think quite a few super chats. Arlie TSL in the chat drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, if they do plan to acquire Platinum, Microsoft may be silent about their plans until the ATV deal is that goes through. That in fact is something that's pretty interesting. You just never know there. JC Claramore drops a very generous $2 super chat and says the strong partners with Nintendo. They are strong partners with Nintendo, so Nintendo might buy. I mean, Nintendo recently had an interview with the president of Japan, where they said they are going to organically grow the way that they've been doing it. They're not going to start buying studios to keep up with the Joneses. He actually did say that. So, I mean, I wouldn't, if you told me tomorrow that Platinum Games was snatched up by Nintendo, that actually would not be as surprising as we've seen things happen so far, because they work together. Wow. Bold Alpha Wolfpack drops an additional $20 super chat and says, Pong, what do you think about CEO Jim Ryan saying that he'd love a world where hundreds of millions can enjoy Sony games? Do you think if Sony bought Bandai Namco, they'd give the Dragon Ball Z, the Street Fighter 5 treatment? What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think I think that we're going to see, as I've stated elsewhere and here, but that I just think we're going to see more cooperation. And what I meant by that, between Sony and Xbox and even Nintendo, what I meant by that is I think certain games you will see, just like we've heard, and we will find out if it's completed, the Activision Blizzard deal. I think you're going to see more games, that more well-known IPs that may have a better chance at living on all ecosystems. Do that, whether it's Sony acquiring them, whether it's Xbox. I just think we're going to see more of that. I don't think we're going to see the acquisition and then everything locked down. I think we're going to see more sharing between all the console maker, or all the consoles, as far as IP staying in a multi-platform kind of way. So I definitely think that Jim Ryan understands the future, and he understands that's why they announced 10 games as a service. He understands that it's not no longer are we looking at a world where exclusives are the be all end all. It's more going to be about engagement and getting that money from other places outside of your own ecosystem as well. And I think Jim Ryan understands that completely now. So.
Great point. Warlord 1015 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, if Microsoft can buy Platinum for a good price, add them and Tango and maybe a third developer, it would be a great start to Xbox Japan publishing. Abso-freaking-lutely. I love that idea, and I definitely think you're onto something for sure. I think I might have caught up with all the super chats. Yeah, I believe I have. I'll check again. But I want to move on, folks, to the third topic of the show. We got 4 topics that we're going to talk about here today, and listen, I want to continue the conversation. And this one, this one comes to us way of friend of the community, Clobrio, where he was on Twitter, as he always is, and he dropped a new post regarding an unannounced project of Unreal Engine 5 for the Coalition. Well, he details here that apparently that project has been in development at the Coalition since the very least of September of 2020. This could be Gears or something else. The studio has announced in May 2021 it is working on multiple new projects. So this is the smaller of the topics. We do have one more big bomb at the back end, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. But Pong, here's the thing. If Hive Busters taught us anything, the Coalition knows how to tell new Gears stories. I don't know what your personal opinion or takeaways from that little DLC that came the way of Xbox Game Pass. I absolutely loved it. I thought that all three characters were engaging to get to know about other family members that are still a part of the Gears universe. In Coltrane's daughter, which I thought was awesome. I really, really loved the chemistry between the three characters. I think that there are stories to be told, both as a sequel to Hive Busters, but you know what? Because they're trying out Unreal Engine 5, and they're working on a smaller project, which we don't know what it is. We're all assuming that it's Gears. For you personally, would you like to see them maybe return to OG Gears and maybe give us a story with Dom and Marcus that we've never seen or heard before to kind of bring us and bring the team all on board with Unreal Engine 5, which we know they are the masters of? What are your thoughts on what Clobury had to say regarding a project that has 2 years of development under their belt, being the smaller of the big projects that we expect Gears 6, one of them, to be?
Yeah, I've been on the train for a long time that I'd love to see the Coalition, if they have any other ideas that they've been kind of batting around inside that studio. And again, for everybody out there who screams, but they were put together to only work on Gears, I understand that. But these are still creative people. And if they had any other ideas, right, and they had them working in the background while they were making Gears 5 or whatever the case may be, and they came up with a small one that they all really loved, but it was something different outside the Gears universe, I'm all for them trying that out. So if this is what that is, I'd love to see what other ideas they have in their heads over there. Because Coalition is extremely talented, probably the masters of the Unreal Engine at this point. So I would love to see a small project come out of them that, again, that's how we got Grounded, right? It's just a small project outside of the norm that a bunch of the team was kicking around, and they put a small group together and they created Grounded. Now look what Grounded's turned into. So I'd love something new to come out of the Coalition if that's what this is. If this is another side Gears project, of course. Look, I don't hide my feelings. I don't like the new direction of Gears. I like the old dark, gritty Gears 100%. I want them to go back to that. I think Gears has
You want more of that dark horror element that you felt.
I do. And I'm not a horror fan, for God's sakes, but I loved what they did Gears 1 through 3. I loved that setting versus the new setting. I don't like the whiny kids in the new Gears. That's just me, and I'm an old guy, okay? So again, the whiny kids don't do anything for me. I want the old classic. So if they're going to go back to Gears and do another small project, that I loved Hive Busters. Hive Busters had more of the 1 through 3 feel than any of the 4 or 5 feel. And I loved that aspect. And there's a lot more story to tell within that Gears universe. So if they are doing that, all about it. Go ahead, do it. What you gave me with Hive Busters was excellent. I absolutely loved Hive Busters. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to no matter what it is what I'm saying here. At the end of the day, again, you can pigeonhole these dev teams because they've been put together to work on a specific franchise, but all those devs are highly creative individuals. That's why they got into gaming in the first place. It is a medium that allows you to express yourself. So I can guarantee you that they have other ideas outside of Gears. And if they want to express themselves by making something else, all the power to them. Can't wait to get my hands on it because, again, I do love what that team does with the Unreal Engine. So I am excited no matter what they come out
with. Xbox BG in the chat, Pong, agrees with you. He says, enough with Gears for now. Just move to a new project and give Gears some time to breathe and evolve. Now, even though I agree with that, I don't think that they could just kind of put their hands up and be like, hey, listen, F Gears, because I'm sorry to say, whether you like it, hate it, or you're somewhere lukewarm about it, it is a major pillar, and you cannot rest on your laurels. A lot of people like Pong did not enjoy Gears 5, does not like the direction that Gears 4 and 5 took. They want that more close combat, claustrophobic horror element that you saw in Gears where you were in these tight corridors. There were darker themes to the combat. There were darker themes to the story that's being told. I think that they have to find a happy medium. But you know what? Again, I listen. Unlike Pong, I actually quite enjoyed Gears 5 because of the open world aspect that we saw come to fruition in Halo Infinite. I like a lot of things to do. One of my biggest complaints with Gears is because I don't read the books, so I don't really know the inner minutia of what goes on in the Gears universe. I only see what I play, and I kind of got bored with the same corridor, the same burnt out cars, the same broken buildings. Go around the corner, find a cog tag, and get an achievement. I wanted more out of my adventure, and I got it. But obviously opinions differ, and that's what's great about this show. Everyone is entitled to theirs. Mr. Joanna Dark, let's bring you in on the conversation. Hearing and getting confirmation from Clobriel, who will not go out of his way to attempt to get things wrong. Usually when he's speaking about it, well, rest assured that he has it on good authority. He says he's not an insider. I beg to differ. What do you want this smaller project to be?
So I would love to get, if we're talking about Dom, to get a small type pendulum war. I know they did a little bit in Gears.
Yes.
I think it was 5. But I would love to see if we want to bring Dom, kind of give us the full gist, because there's a lot of stories to tell prior to the Locust that I think would be interesting.
Yes.
But one of the games that I would love to see, I know we were talking about a survival horror, is I would love to see a Gears game in a survival horror aspect where maybe you play not as these main characters, but maybe as a regular person within the cog, and you're trying to escape, and it's more like surviving.
What
And you're
about a
using the tools.
Carmine? What about giving one of the Carmine brothers an actual from the ground up story that maybe you get to learn a little bit about the history of the family, and not just him be the character that's going to die, kind of like the red shirts on Star Trek.
Or what if we get a story that leads up to Marcus Phoenix's dad and how the Locust came about and kind of the wars that he's in? And I think that, we've gotten Gears tactics and all that. I think with the horror element, I would love to see a game where, yeah, you're right. You can be a Carmine, you're outgunned, you don't have many weapons, and you're kind of, stealthily going in, taking out some of the cog. I think there's some stories to tell in that world, and we can get more than just, I know there's books out there, and I just got one of the recent ones that came out, but I think there's a lot of more stories to tell within the Gear universe. We did get Judgment, which a lot of people don't like, and it was one of my favorite Gears.
I actually quite enjoyed Judgment, to be honest with you. I did not have a problem like everybody else.
I like what the People Can Fly did to kind of, provide something different to the Gears franchise at the moment. But yeah, I would definitely like to see something that maybe gives you more backstory on some of these iconic characters. And I think Dom is a great character to kind of go back and get his story, because, he's great, and we'll see. Hopefully we get something, and maybe we get that survival horror that we all been asking for. But I definitely want Gears to go back to that kind of that feeling that they had in the original trilogy. I mean, I like Gears 4 and 5, but I didn't get that tension. I felt like it wanted me to be more action oriented.
Yes.
So I definitely want that feel of kind of dread in a way.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Let's see. I just saw something that piqued my interest. Let me see this. Where was it? Somebody said something in the chat. Let me see if I could find it, where they actually said they'd love to see a first person Gears. That would be very, very interesting. Mav, look, one of the and I want to bring back to Halo for a hot second, because with 343, they did a lot of amazing things. Besides giving us Halo 1, 2, and 3, they also gave us Reach, which gave us an entirely new story with new characters before Master Chief. But one of the unsung heroes, in my opinion, from Bungie was ODST. One of my absolute favorite Halos, because you were not the Master Chief. You were just a regular drop trooper who got the short end of the stick and was up against forces that you had no right going up against by yourself. It was an incredibly told story. It was one of Bungie's best of the best of the best, sir. Where this small project again, we say small. Well, what is small these days? Is it
Yeah.
5 hours? Is it 10 hours? Heck, we don't even know if it's a Gears project. But what would you like to see them bring to the table outside of Gears 6 in this smaller project?
Yeah. So, yeah, what is small for them? That's a good question, right? Because, we're used to getting multiplayer, co op, campaign, all of this for the coalition, right? So, smaller to them could just be more of a focused single player experience, right? And I would be completely happy with that. And now, Mr. Joanna Dark pretty much stole my entire thought process here because I really want that.
How dare you, Dark?
Yeah, he's a thief. He just doesn't know it. Um, I would really like to see this war and the horror of it from a regular family's perspective. Imagine just being at that time and being in your house with your family and the locusts come in and barge into your home. Like, how terrifying would that have been back at the very beginning of this thing? You know? I could imagine doing a lot of stuff with that, and you could really bring out that horror aspect and fear for your life, and progress through a level. Maybe have some stealth aspect, trying to sneak through areas and all that kind of stuff to it. It would be really cool. So that's just one idea. But I also like out. I always think outside of Gears, right? Because when the coalition started, they were Black Tusk Studios, right? And they had large ambitions to be one of the best developers in the world. This was actually coming from their mouths. And they had ideas about creating these new franchises. They're super excited. And they had one that was shown at E3 back in 2013-ish, I think. And it was going to be some kind of a stealth, like Shanghai's, like um espionage looking type game. And I always kind of think back to, like, what if there was another franchise that they could just play around with and just kickstart something small and see if it takes off? Because they have most of their uh firepower headed towards Gear 6, right? So what if you take us another small project and you try and kickstart another IP, right? That's what I would want the most, trying to either revive that old idea that they had, create a smaller experience like that, new characters, new ideas, and all this stuff, where you still have Gears, and then at some point, if that was successful, you could become a two franchise studio, right? Like a lot of these top tier studios are, because then at that time it gives you the break you need from each franchise, right? So I would really like to see that personally from them. If this is 100% is Gears related, I really want the horror, dark, gritty aspect of it. I mean, I that it needs to be that or nothing else for me, because I don't want just another Gears. We already have that coming, it needs to be something unique. But yeah, I don't know if y'all do you remember that trailer from Black Tusk back in the day? He's like
Yes.
scaling a building, and
Yeah,
there's
it
only really
reminded
bad.
me of a little bit of Splinter Cell and Siphon
Yeah,
Filter.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
yeah,
it did have
100%.
that edge to it. Yep.
Hey Mav,
Yeah,
let me
I
ask you
would love to
this.
see that.
Remember the concept art that they had when they were saying that they were messing around with Unreal, and they kind of showed some of those models? Could it be
Yeah.
hinting at that they're going back in time, as we're kind of talking here and kind of speculating that, hey, are they going back to, like, before the Locust? Because if you look at some of the wear that they were wearing, kind of doesn't look with the certain armor that we see in a Gears game.
Could be. I mean, also you got to look at what they were doing with their concept work for Unreal 5 with the demo that they did, right? Where they had that like glowing like pyramid thing, that was emanating light and stuff. That looked completely different than anything else that they've done as well. So there's a lot of. I think it's just one of the best studios in the world, especially with Unreal. Just absolutely insane talent there at bringing these games to life. So if you stick with Gears, it needs to be something unique. Like that would be great, Joanna, as well. But I would still like to see something completely different from them. Just to have a fresh take
Yeah,
from the
I
coalition.
absolutely agree. As a matter of fact, if you look in the chat, the first person scenario that has gained some serious traction. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, I mean, I listen. I loved Hive Busters. I thought it was probably one of the best pieces of DLC to come to Gears
hmm
ever. But I'm not going to sit here and lie to you to say that I would not welcome in something different, something that we've never played before in the
Yeah.
form of Gears in first person. I think that there is a lot. I'm not saying that Gears needs to go first person in total and never return to third person, because Gears is always going to be the over the shoulder, story driven, adult theme type of title. I don't want that to change. But if a smaller project were to be brought into the conversation and you're telling me, hey, we want to experience, if they ask us, do we want to experience Gears from a never before seen perspective? I love that idea, Matt.
Yeah, for me, like first person shooter, I mean, I think they'd be great at it, but there's
Sure.
just already so many with Xbox. Even Perfect Dark is going to be a first person shooter right now. So, you got Doom, you got probably a new Quake coming. You got Wolfenstein, you got Halo.
Oh, there's
You know,
Fallouts. There's
you get
there's a
Fallout.
multitude of them.
Yeah, I mean,
Pass of
there's so many.
Wolfenstein.
There's so many out there that, like, yeah, it would be really cool. I would love to see that, but as well, like, I would love to see them do stuff to add stuff that it isn't already readily available on the platform as much, right? Because they're a super talented studio. There's not a lot of third person
Correct.
games that are coming
Yeah.
to Game
Mhm.
Pass and stuff, and they have proven to be one of the best in the world at it. So if that, I would hate to take that away and have them do more first person when that's something we have plentiful with Xbox. So I remember when Perfect Dark was revealed, when we all found out it was first person, was like there was a lot of I personally didn't really care. I mean, Perfect Dark's always been first person, but there was a lot of people that were disappointed at that point because they were hoping for that third person stealth game, right? Um Gears has always been third person cover shooter. So maybe they could take different ideas about how to use these third person mechanics and implement them in different ways in different games, because their worlds they create are gorgeous. The gritty, dirty,
Mhm.
like fully realized. I mean, you can make I mean books and movies on all the Gears stuff and everything. Now that originally that came from Epic, right? All those ideas, you know what I mean? But I think they've really found their way with these newer Gears games, bringing the story forward. They're very strong with story. That's something
Yeah.
Coalition doesn't get enough credit for, right? The Gears stories are amazing, so I would like to see them focus on a third person story game,
Yeah.
and
Well,
who knows exactly like stealth or what, but that's what I would personally prefer.
Would you guys like a 2.5D Contra style Gears of War game in the
Oh,
vein
now
of Shadow
that'd be
Complex?
sick.
Shadow Complex.
Metroidvania Gears. No, let's
yeah.
go.
I listen. Again, the smaller Unreal Engine project, I don't think is going to
Yeah.
be a standard cut and paste Gears game. I think whatever
Yeah.
they're going to bring to us is going to be different. But we definitely have one monster topic we have to cover. Obviously, it was advertised, and I want to get everyone's opinion. VJ, just real quick, brother, where do you? What are your opinions on the smaller project? What are you expecting the coalition to deliver?
I think I'm not as hot on Gears of War as everybody else, but I mean, my sort of I've played the games and I really enjoyed them, and most of my education on Gears comes from Stubbs Gaming, because we seem to discuss Gears every week, even if it's not a topic on the agenda. It's just like it just can't get away from it. And for me, look, I played Gears 5. My thoughts are aligned with Pong, and I played Resident Evil 8. And just recently, actually, which is kind of helps in this discussion a little bit, but I would like to see Gears 6, or if it's a sequel to or an expansion of Hive Busters, that they perhaps invoke, the some of the environmental details or the look and the feel, the atmosphere and the aggressive enemies and how they've been rigged and animated to move and behave. It all just culminates in building so much tension and trepidation. And even with a maxed out bloody Magnum, I didn't quite feel comfortable, right? I was still, let's just say I was still on my guard. So I think everything is a possibility, you see. So I guess the question that comes to mind, right? Are Xbox of the mind to support Coalition to the hilt? Not that they aren't, but I guess I mean in terms of how important is the Gears IP? How important is it to keep it in the public eye, right? And how frequent should it be? And for me, it's also about the Coalition, who are, as Mav was saying, a premier developer, right? I've really come to sort of love that studio, and how important it is for them to build good games so that they continue to release product, but more importantly, build intrinsic value in their IP and the studio brand, right? And when I'm talking about Xbox's support for the studio, should it be supported? And it's a question, right? And I don't know the answer, so I'm asking you, right? Should Xbox support the Coalition to expand, evolve, and create the products or the projects that they want to create, whether it's Gears or not, to the degree that they support Halo and 343, right? So, and they've got the money to do so. That's not in question, right? And especially if us, the panel and the chat and most people online, right, hold the Coalition and the games that they make in such high regard. And at the end of the day, Boom, creativity, time, resource, those three things resolve most issues, right? But I'm more than happy to have more Gears and sit in that camp. At the same time, I'm with Pong greenlighting something new that every stakeholder up and down Microsoft management line and divisions sort of across horizontal and vertically, shall I say, that everyone's integrated, right, and on point and in sync, and then go ahead and greenlight a project that perhaps we haven't heard of or don't know about, right? But the studio and everybody else is on board with, and the studio is passionate about with. Again, I have no issues with that at all, right? It's, for me, it's just I just want to see the Coalition do well.
Yeah, again, a great point with the Coalition, and I agree with you. I think you and Pong are on page one for that for sure. Real quick before we move on to the final topic of the evening, I'll say the night. Drawn TJ drops a couple of super chats of $5, and the first one he says, "If I'm Phil Spencer, I get Platinum Games and Capcom. Have Capcom be in charge of Platinum and Tango, or get Bandai. They're not doing anything until this deal with Activision is done. I think they may add some studios, but publishers, the Capcom would be another expensive one. That's probably going to be around 7 to 10 billion potentially. That's going to be a big one.
That's pocket change for you.
What's that?
I was saying that's pocket change for you.
Oh yeah, sure. I got boatloads of it. I'm just gonna start burning cash. I have so much money. Real quick, Drawn TJ's other super chat of $5 says they need to make more. They need to make a third person Halo. I wouldn't disagree with that. I love Halo. I love what it is. Listen. Halo Infinite is in such a great place for the single player that I cannot wait to see what they bring to the table. The multiplayer has, dropped off a bit for some people. I still think it's amazing. They need to continue to add content. We will see what that becomes. But Pong, we got to jump right into the big topic of the show, what we've advertised, and this whole ideology of Xbox needs to answer with their own Nintendo Direct style presentation comes the way of our very good friend of this program, friend of the community, Miles Dompierre, who writes for Windows Central. And he posted an article that I thought was so engaging and so thought-provoking that it was worthy of headlining today's show. Pong, look, here's the thing. Microsoft currently has over 50 games in active development, and of all the 50 games, there are all stages of close to being released. Some in pre-production that may never see release. Regardless, that's a lot of games. And one of the things that we've seen Nintendo do to unbelievable success is let their fans know that even though the game isn't available today, it will be available tomorrow. Them like Sony sell hope to their consumers. And I'm not throwing Microsoft under the bus here, but we have to call a spade a spade. Inside Xbox is not the answer. And that is why we have seen it go to the way of the dodo. The question that he posed and the question I posed to you and the entire chat, as well as the panel, is how do you fix inside Xbox? Because I really do like what Nintendo does. They show us some of their first party greatness, even games that we're not going to see potentially for a year. They throw some indies in there. They throw some maybe third party stuff in there. You get 45 minutes, you walk away satisfied, and you're running to your Switch to download the newest demo or game that's in there in the form of an indie. This is something that we've seen Sony do to great success recently with their one takes. They did it with Ratchet and Clank. They did it with Horizon. They did it with recently with Gran Turismo that's coming out later this year. But Microsoft seems to be, let's say they're coming up short in that area. How do you fix this?
I think Miles took a little trip in the time machine and may have gone back through your library of shows, Boom. And right around the time of the ZeniMax deal being completed, I brought this exact point up and we had discussions about it on multiple shows.
Yep.
That this was going to be a key going forward for Microsoft and Xbox, was making sure that with all of these studios, all of this content now being made, how they were going to manage the marketing aspect of it, how they were going to make sure that they kept these games in people's minds and kept them fresh. And so that maybe some of the titles weren't lost in the shuffle. And at that time, I had brought up Nintendo Directs as a great way of doing that, because it is going to be something that they do have to manage. It's something that a spot they have not been in before, right? So, with the past, at one point, 5 studios or whatever it was, look, they were trying to find content to actually show off. Now you have the smorgasbord of content that's going to be eventually dropping. Sometimes, one AAA per month is going to be not out of the question. So how are you going to make sure that you're putting the spotlight on these games and making sure that people realize, hey, they're coming. Hey, here's an update. Look what's been going on. So I believe that you have to have a mixture, that still focusing on one big time each year or 2 big times each year, like an E3 or an XO. The Game Awards has obviously become a major spot for Xbox as well. Having those big shows is great and it's fantastic. And you definitely want to take something like a Starfield and really give it its all during those showcases, those big spots where millions of people are watching at one time. But I really think it's time that Microsoft and Xbox go back to the drawing board here and really figure out a smaller show, a smaller venue like a Nintendo Direct, and making sure that some of those games that are coming out soon are spotlighted and saying, hey, remember this game that we talked about a year ago or 2 years ago? Yeah, that's coming. Maybe you guys haven't seen it lately. Here's a little clip of it. Get that hype train rolling for those specific titles with a smaller show. Because if you start to do this right, and again, it's not going to be out of the gate per se, but if they came up with a great format and started introducing it and making it a regular thing, because again, with all these studios, we're talking about before even the Activision Blizzard deal is approved. They have so much that they could realistically plan out and have scheduled these smaller in-between shows and still have, no matter what at the end of the day, know that they have content to put in those shows. And if you get your audience, your fan base, and the greater video game mind share, right? And you get the people who drop into Sony's shows, State of Plays, or the Nintendo Directs, even if they're not per se part of that fan base. Like me, I jumped into Nintendo Directs all the time, just try to see if they're going to finally, do something for me. And this last Nintendo Direct actually got me excited, even though I don't own a Switch right now, right? And I had no plans. I haven't owned a Nintendo outright since Super Nintendo. My kids have had Game Boys and stuff, but I haven't owned one since Super Nintendo, but it still got me excited. So Xbox could go ahead and create this expectation of these smaller shows, calling it whatever, come up with a great marketing campaign or whatever else, and then go into these shows and start drawing in people from even outside their fan base to watch and say, hey, That's right. Xbox has got that little show coming up. What's it called? Who knows? The X Showcase. Oh my God, let's go watch. Let's see what's coming out or what maybe we are not aware of. On top of third-party titles that they may have in development, on top of all the indies that they have in development. I know they've got their ID at Xbox shows, but those are massive, usually generally big shows, and a lot of those smaller titles get lost in all the commotion. So again, spotlighting upcoming titles that are, soon to be coming out is something that I think Xbox could do. So I'm all in favor of this. I think you go with a mix of big shows and little shows, but I think you make it regular. I think that's going to be the big point. Make it regular so people come to expect these little shows coming out, whatever you're going to call them. And I think that that's where they should go, especially coming into 2023 when we know this avalanche really gets started. 2023, 2024, 2025 are going to be gigantic years for Xbox. So get them going this year. I'm not saying tomorrow, but I'm saying later, before the summertime, before E3 time, even though we're not really having E3, we're still going to have stuff around there. Before then, let's say April, get a show. Have another one in the fall, get people used to the idea. Then coming into 2023, really ramp it up and maybe have 3 each year on top of your big shows. Boom. I'm all for this. Miles did a great job of breaking it down and really love the article because, again, I talked about it last year right here. This was definitely something that I think they need to look into and will be beneficial for everybody involved. So go for it. Listen to Miles, Xbox, since you didn't listen to me last year. Listen to Miles. He's got the right idea. Let's do it.
100%. Mr. Joanna Dark, let's get your final opinion on this. What does Microsoft need to do to get people excited that show A is releasing? Because everyone seems to stop and listen to when Sony does a show, specifically when Nintendo does a show, because you don't know what you're going to get. Are we getting the Metroid Prime trilogy? Are we getting a release date for Breath of the Wild 2? Or when's the next Mario Odyssey? Everyone's always wanting to know what Nintendo is going to do next. Microsoft needs to find a way with the amount of studios and IP that they have working. They need to get the fan base excited, even outside of what's coming in the next 6 to 12 months. Sell hope a little bit. And I don't think showing a trailer for something that we didn't expect wouldn't hurt the argument either. What are your thoughts?
Bring on the Xbox Game Pass Showcase. I'm terrible at naming things, but I think Pong Solo made some good points. And I think there's 2 things, right? Yes, I think we definitely need some shows that kind of give us piecemeals, right, of things that are coming. And one of the things that I also want is the fact that I think also, in my opinion, I would like Microsoft to also find a way to better showcase their games in the sense of telling me what they are. I think Sony does a phenomenal job. When they showed me Horizon the first time, when they showed me Days Gone, I was hyped. They gave me a nice little vertical slice of what that game was. I think Nintendo does the same thing by showing, getting me hyped, for, Triangle Strategy or Mario Strikers. And in addition to having a show that kind of put the spotlight on the game, I think one of the things that Xbox still does is that it's kind of an antiquated way of kind of just like not showing a lot and kind of leaving you to just know that, hey, when you get the game, you're going to enjoy it. And I think that's another thing that maybe they can learn from, Bethesda or even Activision in not only getting a show that's going to highlight the games that are coming to Game Pass from the first party studios, but also giving us some really good vertical slices that really draws the attention, gives us the systems. I think that's one of the things that I like about the state of plays when I get first party titles is that I'm excited because I know what I'm going to be playing versus showing me a trailer and kind of sitting here, like for an example, Perfect Dark. I love Perfect Dark. I loved it in the N64 days. And we're here wondering, what is it? Yeah, it's first person, but what does it play like? And I get it. First time you can show a trailer, but I also think they need to improve in how they display their games. And yeah, give us maybe, one that's maybe small for smaller games and give us one for like those big AAA bangers where you're kind of getting in there and kind of giving us, and then whatever you have for E3, you can go in there and just give us, the big show. But yeah, and I think that's something they have to figure out, especially now with, eventually when Activision closes and, with Bethesda right now, maybe that's something they can start putting together once they have something in place. So when they do eventually get Activision, if that goes through, they at least have something to kind of start off instead of kind of waiting till all these companies come together.
I mean, fantastic points. And Mav, I want you to piggyback on that because Mr. Joanna Dart brings up a great point right along with Pong. If there's anyone that knows the master of shows, well, it's God Howard for sure, and the team over at Bethesda. They know how to get you excited. They know how to get the fan base pumped for a game. I don't necessarily know if you give you kind of lay the charge in front of them to say, hey, listen, besides making great games, we want you to produce shows, but they definitely know what they're doing. For you, Microsoft seems that they've kind of dropped the ball in this area because, listen, I love Larry Herb. I love the folks over at Inside Xbox, but the truth of the matter is that a lot of the stuff that happened during those shows were, as people called it, cringe worthy. And I don't think people want those trap room scenarios anymore. I think people want to see the games. I think they want to get in, they want to get out. 40 minutes, 50 minutes, pre-taped, get in there, get Sarah Bond in on the conversation, bring Matt Booty out, bring Larry Herb to present the game, bring Aaron Greenberg or even Phil Spencer himself to introduce a new IP, or even the head of said studio. What do you do to fix a problem that they seem to be still having with their shows?
Yeah, they just need to be able to promote them more. Like they have this inside Xbox thing where they kind of like, oh, here's what's coming for this month on Xbox or whatever, and then they kind of go through and it's just like a bunch of montage on trailers and stuff, and it's not really like a huge deal, right? People really look forward to a Nintendo Direct, you know, and maybe part of it's like, they don't announce a Nintendo Direct until like the day before.
It's
You
usually
know
a
what I
couple
mean?
of days before that you'll get the drop. It's
Right.
usually 2 days.
So there's all of a sudden, oh wait, there's going to be news about Nintendo, right? It catches everybody's attention, so everybody's focused in, and then they're ready for that. So they got to get this stuff right with marketing and promotion. It's also a bigger problem now because a lot of the live events have been canceled. Even like the other ones that they will usually have, like either South by Southwest or QuakeCon is a huge thing. That usually there's a lot of stuff from Bethesda that lately that's been getting revealed at QuakeCon. I remember that's the first place that they had shown the last Doom game, right? So there's things like that too that are not utilized right now. Now going in the forward, those events will be back, right? So you're gonna have QuakeCon, you're gonna have BlizzCon, right? You're gonna have whatever the big presentation they put together. Plus, you're also gonna have Call of Duty League, uh, and all of these things all have lots of viewers, standard, right? Like whenever Call of Duty's on, it's easy 50,000 viewers right there for the Call of Duty League, right? They're gonna be able to utilize these avenues with the esports and all this other stuff as well for marketing opportunities. So don't not think that they're not going to be doing that. They're for sure going to be utilizing every avenue that they have, even as far as Candy Crush, right? They're going to be having ads and promotions in mobile games now, which is pretty crazy. But overall, I do think they need to have some procedural, systematic approach to events because what we said, like Pong said, we talked about this a lot last year, a lot. When they made the ZeniMax Bethesda purchase and they had already acquired all those other studios previously, we were like, man, this is going to be a legitimate problem being able to try and figure out ways of showing all these games.
Yep.
That we talked about it on our show, on our channels. I know we talked about it on yours as well. It is a legitimate issue to be able to have so much to be able to present it all in a fair way to every game and be able to get each game the limelight. Obviously, E3 has the biggest stage. Those games get pumped up so much, right? But they need to figure out, okay, how can we present this showcase this month regularly? And it's got to be like maybe quarterly, like you guys said, or maybe every other month, but maybe even more than that. Realistically, I
Yeah.
mean, if you go with the cadence of what they have coming, we talked about it. You got like 50 projects in the works. That's a lot, right? So over the course of what 4 years, that's about a game a month. Like to be able to try and really get big time advertising for. So I don't know how they're going to do it because no other publisher right now, like that's a platform holder, has that issue,
Yeah.
right? That none of them do. The only one that has to think about that aspect is Xbox. So I think they're going to come up with something. And you guys are right. Like Todd Howard, Pete Hines, those guys are going to do great. Now, also, you can't overlook Activision's marketing team.
Yeah, they know a thing or three.
Right.
Yep.
Look what they've done with Call of Duty and all these things. So maybe you have separate showcases involving separate teams and publishers that you've acquired, that kind of build up over the year, to give every brand kind of their own identity and independence, while still maintaining that branding of Game Pass, Xbox ecosystem throughout each one. But there needs to be like at least 4 of those, plus utilize QuakeCon, utilize BlizzCon, utilize all the esports, utilize the app, all these kind of things. You're going to see more branding and marketing from Xbox than you've ever seen before in the coming years, and that's just because now they own all those things.
Yeah.
So,
Real quick, look what Nintendo does, right? They do directs that say focusing on games in this year.
Yep.
And maybe they can
Yeah.
break up games and then, like Nintendo, maybe give us a surprise of something that may come in 2023. And maybe that can be a way of kind of looking at things and breaking them down.
The other aspect of that, Nintendo can get away with that, right? Because Nintendo didn't have much to show for like 2 years in a row.
Yep.
Right? And everybody's like still buying Nintendos like crazy. It doesn't matter. They have like one thing drop and then everybody goes crazy. Whereas if Xbox goes 2 years without really showcasing much new, they're going to get like criticized like crazy. So I think Nintendo and Xbox is like a little bit different animals there, where somehow just Nintendo gets away with everything. But like this Nintendo Direct was crazy, great, because they didn't show us anything for like 2 years, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how they do it, but I don't know if going 100% with Nintendo's approach will work, because a lot of those Nintendo Directs, remember, everybody hated all of them until this one, right? Like all these other ones, after Nintendo Directs, everybody's like, what was that? What was that? Everybody's freaking out over it. So we'll see,
Yep.
We'll see.
Well, I mean, only time is going to tell, but I think change has to come. The Inside Xbox is not the answer. It has not been the answer.
No.
It hasn't. It hasn't been the worst I've ever seen. No, but it certainly needs to improve. VJ, close out today's incredible new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast with your opinion. What are your thoughts on Microsoft, specifically Phil Spencer and Aaron Greenberg and the team over at Redmond, making big changes to an issue that they have some shortcomings for?
I think the first thing, look, I haven't read the article, so please forgive me if I speak out of turn here. I think the first thing you have to do is commend Xbox. If they're seeing it as an issue, if they want to remedy the issue, if they want to, aim higher in terms of how the Xbox brand is, viewed on a global perspective, not from the US perspective alone, then I think you've got to applaud them for that, right? And just to be sort of super clear, I'm not any sort of creative marketing person, right, by any stretch of the imagination, right? And there are some, I have to say, there are some exceptional agencies out there for this sort of stuff, right? That you only have to provide, a single line, right, and they will come back with magic. And I sometimes look at the games industry, because even Sony had some missteps. Even Nintendo have had missteps in their past. This is not something exclusive to Microsoft per se, or Xbox, right? Every company has this blip, right? So, and I can only speak from limited experience, but what I will say, anything you do, no matter your sort of walk in life, so to speak, is you should take strides in improving sort of one's appearance and presentation, because it counts for a lot, right? And even if it's not sort of calculable or tangible at the time, right? And I remember sort of older marketing VPs and older marketing directors and so on and so forth that just knew that they had good game, they knew it would sell, the numbers would be there, and they just wouldn't push themselves, right, to invest in terms of the intrinsic value, the long-term intrinsic value, right, of what brand building actually does, right? And sort of, again, a presentation is key, whether you're I don't know, Pong Sol will probably be familiar with this, whether you're turning up for many dates because such a handsome chap, an interview, or if you're meeting a VC, or 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 presenting. So I had to throw in a joke that was just getting too serious. Or if you don't mind, Boom, a VC meeting, or presenting / raising the curtain on a new premiere or a new exclusive, right? In Xbox's case. So, but the counter to all of this is some people may say, well, what's the big deal, right? Because just look at Xbox right now. The engagement numbers are showing 20 million for Halo, 18 million for Forza. So they must be doing something, right? So, but then again, with my sort of other sort of skeptical hat on, right, I don't know the true nature of those or qualitative measure of such numbers, right, without more facts. But there's always room for improvement and expansion without overdoing it, of course, right? And I think it has to be because it's evident. And one I would say is overdue and evident, right? Xbox want to improve, they have to improve, and they want to lead the market, right? And I think it's also in terms of, I can't remember who said it on the panel, but someone just said something that triggered something in my mind. But it's also about the age group with the content that they have. Can't go a show without mentioning Banjo for Boom, can you? And then you've got the global, the dynamism of the global demographic that they're trying to appeal to, right? So, and I know they've got a lot of content, and I don't mind how frequent these events end up being, right? Do what you need to do given the occasion and given where the development of a game is, but the quality and the culture and the vibrancy, the explicitness of an event, it just needs to sparkle far more than it does now, right? And if you look at Sony and Nintendo, right, they invest a lot into their presentations. They're providing guidance, right, as to what works and what doesn't, right? And there are plenty of other industries to evaluate and glean ideas from. And you can quite easily go out, enlist a fantastic agency or two, and tap into their creativity, right? That's what you're paying them for, right? And that's what your competitors are doing. Because I know from speaking to people at Nintendo and Sony, right, they do very little internally, right? What they are very good at is that they have the vision holders, right, that provide the all-important catalyst, right? That one sentence, those couple of slides, right, with the creative vision in terms of what they want to achieve, right? And if I was, at Microsoft, right, and I was sort of tasked with this, and I'd go into an agency, right, and on my first slide would be the quote from Steve Jobs, right? The only problem with Microsoft is that they just have no taste, right? And I would set a really tough challenge, face it head on, and tell the agencies, how do we go about placing this notion firmly in the rear mirror, since it still resides in the minds of many, right? And that should serve constantly as a reminder, as a proponent to propel you forward, right? And a catalyst to push Xbox to the next level and beyond, right? So that's just my take on it. I did have something to say about the cringe. Someone mentioned cringe, and
that was me. I mentioned the whole cringe situation where we've seen it, more times than not.
I know something very, very cringy, but I'm not really sure I should talk about it on this show today.
Well, listen, we can always bring it back. But listen, folks, that is your Xbox Factor podcast for Tuesday, February 15th. We hope that we answered all of the biggest questions of the day. We hope that we delivered a 2+ hour show that you want to check out, you want to help promote, show your friends, tell them about the most positive Xbox show on YouTube right here for you each and every Tuesday. Let's get to the outros, get everyone the heck out of here. We'll start first with Pong. So Pong, brother, you delivered as expected. Please, by all means, sell your own brand. Tell them about Living Split Screen every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And also, what are the shows that you are frequently on, as well as where could people reach out to you and strike up a conversation on social media?
Thank you so much, Boom. What a fantastic show.
More topics, bro. And
man, we got through them. We crushed it. Man, we talked about it. A lot of the discussion. Love it. Chat was engaged. Lots and lots of conversation going on there. Appreciate all of you. Mav, Mr. Joanna Dark, and of course, BJ, sir. Great to have you here, but it was great to be on the show with all of you. Love the conversations. Real quick, Xbox just announced that Chorus from DS Fish Labs now has a demo that is live. If anybody out here listening right now is interested in space shooters at all, do yourself a favor, download the Chorus demo, try it out. It is well worth your time. That game.
I bought that game, never
fantastic.
played it. What a disgrace.
Brother.
What a
Oh, man,
disgrace.
it's so
Yes.
good. It is so good. So please go try out the demo. But otherwise, great show, everybody. You can find me, Pong Soul, Xbox, Twitter. You guys know all the drills there. Be there. And then obviously coming Thursday is going to be PM in the PM, Pong and Mav in the PM over on Fun Speculations channel, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time, 2-man show, unless we have a guest like we had Boom last week. So if you missed last week's show, please go check it out. We had an awesome time with Mr. Boomstick there. But that we're going to talk about 1, 2, 3 topics. We'll see what comes up this week, but it's normally just Mav and I deep dive in those topics. Check us out there. Friday nights, Xbox Ultimate, back on Fun Speculations channel, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 o'clock Central Time. The Great 8, depending on how many are actually there. But we have 8 people, plus Mav always has guests. Always a good time. Come check us out on Xbox Ultimate. Saturday mornings, get those alarms set now so you don't forget. Living Split Screen. Split Screen is all one word. My brother from another, Steel, Rain, and I. 3+ hours. Buckle up. This industry is on fire, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to have rants. We're going to have get help segments. We're going to have exciting times to talk about. Well, we're going to show off some stuff. He has great footage all the time. So come, please check out Living Split Screen. We are in mission 1K. We are trying to get 1K subs this year. So bring a friend, show it off, see if they like it. Again, Steele and I are going to talk your ears off, but we have a good time doing it. So please join us there on Living Split Screen, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time, 3 p.m. UK time. Otherwise, Saturday nights, the Shop podcast over on PTK Blam's channel. Man, just a great time over there with Fuzzy, myself, PTK, and you never know who else is going to show up on that show. So please drop on in there, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 o'clock Central Time. Otherwise, it is the golden age of gaming. No better time ever in history to be a gamer than right now. All this content coming, it is getting out of hand. Please enjoy it, play what you love what you play, and I will talk to you all real soon. Nothing
Great,
but love
brother.
and respect. Yep.
Absolutely. Mr. Joanna Dark, sell your brand, brother. Tell everyone where they could check out your couple of weekly shows that you do. And also, where can people strike up a conversation on social media?
Sure. First of all, I want to say thank you. You know, I always look forward to Tuesdays to hanging out with Ponso, Mav, of course, Boxenberger, and you, Boom. It's always a pleasure. And I was happy to have VJ on here as well, and kind of have him on the show and give his takes on some of the news today.
Yeah, he's a cheater, according to Pong.
He is. He knows too much.
He's an insider, right? So Pong, am I a cheater because I may know some stuff, but I can't share?
Yeah, but you don't share it. See, you don't whip out all this information on us regular gamers. Okay, that's what BJ does.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, big_n_boss. And then you can find me tomorrow on the Crazy Lou Gaming channel with Xbox International.
Yes.
Last week we had Delilah HT, and I guess I can talk offline about some of the cool things I learned about Scalebound that many people may not know, because Delilah actually did an in-depth interview that she doesn't have anymore of some of the systems and kind of like the scope of the game, which was pretty cool. This week I have my co-host from the Nickel Gaming Show, Jazz, coming on there.
Nice.
So we're happy to hang out with her. And then, of course, on Thursdays, I record with Albert and Jazz on the Nickel Gaming Show. And then, of course, Tuesdays, I'm here on the Xbox Factor podcast. But like always, thank you. It's always a fun time, like I say.
Well, it's great to have you a part of the cast, brother. And we love your hot takes and definitely appreciate you being a part of each show. Mav, you got a lot going on, brother. Please, by all means, sell your brand. Let's get you past 3K this year. I'd love to see you go to 5, because I think the work that you do is phenomenal. Obviously, you and Caitlin bring a tremendous amount of love and energy to each and everything that you work on together. By all means, tell everyone where they can support your channel and also reach out to you on social media.
Heck yeah, man. A fun time today, everybody. Check out on Twitter, Fun Speculation. Also, YouTube, Fun Speculation. We have a multitude of shows, as Pong was breaking down a few of them. Tomorrow, we're going to have a really crazy fun pop, which is where we talk about movies, TV shows, and games. But yeah, there was a lot of fun stuff regarding the some of the Super Bowl commercials, the Doctor Strange, and the some of the DC stuff that's going on. You know, we got to talk about the Batman too, because it's coming around the corner. Wow. Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun tomorrow night on Fun Pop. But also check out, like Pong said, PM in the PM. We're gonna have a lot of fun there. Me and him deep diving on some stuff. Friday's Xbox Ultimate Podcast at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have a blast on that show. It goes crazy sometimes. And then Saturday is FSP Fun Speculation Podcast with my good buddies Key and Fuzzy Belvedere. So come check us out on Fun Speculation. You may see me playing games or just want to come hang out and say hello. Take it easy, everybody. Thank you.
Well, thanks for being here, brother. I definitely appreciate that. And last and no way least, the newest member of the Xbox Factor podcast on Tuesdays, VJ. By all means, brother, tell everyone where they can reach out to you on social media, but more importantly, find you on other podcasts, talking the talk and walking the walk.
I think I have to concur with Pong, right? Cheaters should be hung, drawn, and quartered. Look, I wasn't on Twitter before I started podcasting, and I don't have a channel or make content, but I love appearing on other people's channels. So what I would say to everyone listening is that I highly recommend you follow Boom and the panel. But if you do want, or if you can stand more of me, you'll find me on Midweek Gaming tomorrow over on Stubbs' channel.
Nice.
And sorry for pushing over the time limit, Boom, with my rant.
Not at all, brother. Listen, this is a conversational podcast, and we love the detailed hot takes as always, because again, we're privileged to have you on the show, that we get the behind the scenes information and experience that maybe some other shows don't have. So we're thrilled to have you a part of the show. Thank you for being here. Listen, folks, I want to thank the near 400 people we had here today. That is big for a very small show. Of course, I want to thank the incredible amount of generosity shown through the super chats. Those help this channel grow in more ways than you are aware of. And obviously, as we close out through the year, we're going to be doing some more bigger giveaways. Of course, that we end the big bomb during the holidays, and that's not for another couple of, I would say 8 months or so, but we will get around to those big giveaways. And we do that with, of course, channel membership and the super chats that, in fact, do come in. So a big thank you to the community that continues to donate to Double Barrel Gaming. And, of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that is important to me, folks. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast.